Good morning. This is the Blainesworld webcast that can be found each week on Facebook, YouTube, and LinkedIn. You can also listen in on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. You can get more information and listen to previous shows at our website, which is behind me, blainesworld.net. I'm your host, Blaine Greenfield, and I'm here in my Zoom studio in lovely downtown Fairview, North Carolina. And it's my pleasure to introduce our guest in just a second. But I should tell you that we focus on people and organizations in both Western North Carolina and throughout the country who are doing cool stuff. And one of the coolest guys I know, I'm going to introduce, is Dr. Chuck Beattie. And he's involved in a great thing you're going to hear about in a second. Chuck, before we begin, you can wave to all you fans and friends who are watching this. Okay.
Hello, everybody in
Okay.
Asheville and surrounding areas.
Okay, and that's Chuck Beattie, and I know Chuck Beattie through his involvement was in the Asheville area, and now he's done about 27 other things since then. But if I can just highlight a little bit of your background, Chuck, because I just love it. Let me see, I have it here somewhere. Yeah, Chuck Beattie is a certainly a powerful presence in the world of music. But I've known him and admired him for years, seen him perform as well. Whether you're a fan like me or getting to meet him for the first time, I think you'll be impressed with the story. Chuck Beattie, also known as Dr. Blues, and we'll talk about that in a second, is a living authority on the blues. He's a distinguished lecturer, recording artist, entrepreneur, and an ordained pastor who weaves storytelling, soul, and scholarship into everything he does. His journey has taken him from joints to university classrooms, from sacred pulpits to international stages, and now he's taking it all on the road. And I have to just tell you, Chuck, the first time I heard about this, I said, wow, what a great concept. You're going to do a blues bus tour. But even before you talk about that tour, let me ask you this. As a kid, you grew up where?
I grew up in Eastern North Carolina.
Okay.
Eastern North Carolina. I was born in Wilmington, grew up in a little place called Burgaw, which is the home of Victor Wooten, the bass player. And about age 10 or so, I moved to Rocky Mount, North Carolina, and graduated high school in Rocky Mount,
And
North
when you were a
Carolina.
kid growing up, did you always know you wanted to be a blues guy?
No, I did not. I always was fascinated by music, and very early on, I played drums. I actually marched in the Azalea Parade in the second grade, first and second grade. My brother and I, we came from a little small town, Burgaw, Burgaw. It's about 20 miles northwest of Wilmington. And so, in order to fill out the band, they got all the elementary kids that were interested, and we all marched. And so, my first parade out, I think I was in the second grade, in my first parade.
And you were playing
Uh,
at the time, you were playing drums?
trumpet
Oh, trumpet.
and drums. Yes.
Okay. So I know you not as a trumpet player, and it's funny, as a kid, I played the trumpet, but I knew you as I first met you playing a guitar, I guess, or
Yes.
so how did you evolve from drums and trumpet to guitar?
Well, it's a story of development over time. I grew up in Eastern North Carolina where music was really big. A lot of great gospel groups have come out of my area. Matter of fact, they're my friends, Luther Barnes, the Sunset Jubilee Singers, the Nightingales out of Durham, North Carolina. Some very famous people that I just know personally, John P. Key. Um, but when I was growing up in Eastern North Carolina, we used to go and my brother and I would go and play for people that were coming down south of the Mason-Dixon line, who did not have to have contract musicians that were union musicians.
Right.
So my first bands were when I was in high school. I was backing up acts that were coming down south. Um, and you've heard of the Chitlin Circuit.
Right.
This basically was a route that came down. Basically, it was Highway 117 and 301. There was no I-95 back in those days, but every little town, they would hit the town and come people that had one record or two records or no records. would come from Chicago, New York, Philadelphia, etc., and they were looking for a band to back them up while they played in the area. And so my brother and I got a great reputation. They would say, "Get the Beattie Boys to back you up." And so that's how I got involved in music.
You remember your
And the
first,
blues came later.
you remember your first gig that you got paid
My
for?
first gig, yes, I made $7.
Okay.
I played with a man called Bigfoot Baker, and Baker could not play any instrument, but he always had a band. He had all the instruments, and he would find guys to play, and he would book these gigs and take us around. And so, as a high school kid, I was playing around in different places. Of course, they had alcohol, and he would always tell me, "Don't go over there and don't let them give you nothing to drink, 'cause you're going to get me in trouble." And these were not licensed like you have liquor now. This was, poured out behind behind a table or something.
One of the things I'm a little surprised at, speaking to you, Chuck, I don't see on the wall there. I thought I'd see framed the first at $5 and two singles or something. You still don't have that original money?
No, no, it's probably out there somewhere in the ethos right now. I never thought of value of saving it. I was a kid and I didn't know it was important. I didn't even save the opportunity to get autographs from some of the great people I played with early on because I didn't know where this was going to go. I mean, I was in the moment.
So you were a kid. Very great story. $7. How old were you then when you got the first $7?
Uh, I was probably 15, 16.
So
Yeah,
moving there, it's kind of an interesting process you've gone through. So you started at 15, 16 as a kid, but you were playing still. Were you still playing the trumpet then?
still playing the trumpet. Later on, I picked up the bass and started playing the bass a little bit, bass guitar.
Yeah. And so what got
Um,
you into playing that? Just wanted to learn it or?
um, well, I got smitten by the Beatles. Um, I was a kid of the time, when the Beatles came out, and before that, all the girls wanted a saxophone player, the saxophone player, the trumpet player, and then here comes these Beatles, and now everybody's looking to be a guitar player. Well, I didn't know anything about guitar, but I got interested in it, and I got an old beat up guitar. I can't remember. I think I paid $5 or something from some guy that needed something to drink, and I got it from him. The guitar was terrible. The strings were like, this high off the fretboard, but I didn't know. And I didn't know anything about chords or anything like that. And I was going to a church, um, Red Bud Holy Church, which is kind of a Pentecostal kind of a holiness church. Um, my friends, my next door neighbors, the McDonald's, they attended church there. We were Presbyterian at the time, my family. And but I was fascinated because they had guitars, they had drums, guitars, and the
Right.
organ and
Can't
stuff like
imagine.
that.
Yeah.
And so I would go there, and I met this guy, Samuel Barnes, who was a guitar player, and he played for his father's church there, the Reverend F.C. Barnes, who became very, very famous. He's gotten Grammys and all of that kind of stuff like that. And but his son Sammy, I guess I'm just trying to remember now. I probably was at the time maybe 12 or 13. So Sammy must have been high school, like, 17 or 18, and really, really cool. And the girls really loved Sammy, and he had a guitar. So I begged him to let me carry the guitar into church so I could walk in with him. And like they would think I was like with the band, so to speak. And so that's how it started. And then he showed me a couple of things on his guitar. but I couldn't play it on my guitar because my guitar was so bad. So I started making the chords just on the top string, and therefore, the bass. I was like emphasizing the bass note. I met a friend, Gerald Williams. He and his friend Horace Winstead had gotten guitars for Christmas, and I'd heard about it, and I went to go across town to meet these guys, and we started our first little group called the Vagabonds. We were playing Peter, Paul, and Mary, and
Sure.
James Brown, and stuff like that. Just the three of us, just playing, and we were teaching each other, and that's how that part of it started.
Well, this was, by the way, before YouTube, I guess. You didn't pick up stuff on YouTube that way,
We had no YouTube then. No, no, no. You had no YouTube. You just went and sat with somebody and they showed you. Um, None of us knew anything about reading or writing music or anything like that, but we made up songs and our own arrangements of what we heard on the radio or what we thought we heard on the radio. And, that was my first group, the Vagabonds.
Did you ever take formal lessons after that?
I've taken one or two lessons in uh, jazz guitar. I've studied a little bit of jazz guitar with a couple of people over time and picked up some hints and that sort of thing like that. But for the most part, I just play by ear. It's the gift that God has given me, and it's taken me everywhere.
Do you read music?
I read just a little, enough to be dangerous.
Okay. Just one of the things I always admired about you is that I guess you went from I love that name, the Vagabonds. You went from the Vagabonds to then playing. You got very heavy, as we'll talk about, into blues, but you also do gospel stuff as well. I mean, you do a whole range
Yes.
of music.
Yes, 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 yes. I do gospel. Gospel is basically, I guess, the roots of my interest in music started in that little church, hearing those guys play, and then being able to go to programs where I saw the famous people like Sam Cooke and other people like that were touring as gospel artists, and it just became a part of my cultural upbringing. Um, and I actually had a group because it was approved. The adults approved it. Are you going to sing a gospel group? Oh, they encouraged that. So there were three sets of brothers. It was me and my brother Gerald, the Lodge boys. So Stanley and I can't remember the other boy's name. Wilbur, yeah, Stanley and Wilbur Lodge, and then the McDonald's, Robert and Earl McDonald. So there were six of us, and we had a gospel group that we played.
What was the name of that group?
I don't even remember.
Okay.
I don't even remember.
But anyway, so you went from different kinds of things to gospel. Then did you eventually, and help me with tracing your background here, did you eventually become a full-time musician? Was that kind of your first gig?
No, I wasn't a full-time musician, but I was the go-to, on-call musician for all those years. High school, even in college, I played in some trios and quartets that were jazz, a little bit of R&B, but mostly jazz. I also played in the college marching band and in concert band, and I was playing the trumpet there, not guitar. Um, yeah, so I've always had a little bit of music going. The sad story is I stopped playing uh, my sophomore year. My brother was killed in an accident in Greensboro, North Carolina, and it always brought to mind Don McLean's song. The day the music
Uh,
died, it died for me then because all I had done, I'd done with my brother. My brother was a drummer, and I was playing the trumpet or the bass, and we did everything together, and we were always hired together. They said, "Go get the Beattie Boys," and so um, it it just left a hole in my heart, you know, uh, and I couldn't deal with it. So the music just kind of fell away for a long time. I ended up going to graduate school down I'm just jumping ahead, but going to graduate school down in Florida at Florida State University. And I got hit by a car on my bicycle and broke the upper part of my arm. And the doctor said they wanted to fuse my arm, and I refused it. I didn't want that to happen. At age 27, I didn't want that to happen. And so I said I would exercise and do what I needed to do, to get back. And I couldn't drive. I couldn't dress myself. I had to have my neighbor come over and help me put my shirt on and everything because I couldn't dress myself. Um, One day I was on a bus, and as it happened, the bus driver had someone run across, and he slammed on brakes, and his things got strewn in the aisle. So I bent down to help pick his things up, and in there was a Mel Bay beginning guitar book. And I said, "You play guitar?" He says, "Oh yeah, I play." He said, "But I'm trying to learn how to read." And I said, "Well, I could help you with that." And so we became friends. And moving forward, I ended up joining his gospel group. They needed a bass player. So I joined his gospel group, started playing with him, and that's when the music came back into
Boy,
my life.
talking about a great story, talking about being at the right place at the right time. It's
Absolutely.
incredible. By the way, I'm hoping we want to see this from you too. This will be all in your book you're going to write about your life.
Oh, yes. Oh,
By
yes.
the way,
Absolutely.
I'm just loving this story. So, and I love the way, by the way, that's the title for the book, I think, when the music comes, what that's a great story, Chuck, and great title for a book. And so after a bunch of period of time, 27, you come back playing guitar again, performing, and
Right.
you had stopped for how many years?
Well, I'd stopped from, let's see, age, I think I was 19 when my brother
Okay.
died. So from then until 27, so like 8 years, 9 years of no music at all.
So
Um,
all of a sudden you make a comeback or you're coming back performing at age 27, then we'll kind of move it a little bit along. So that became you became a musician at that point in time and you were playing mostly gospel or other stuff as well.
I was playing mostly gospel then. I graduated with my PhD in statistics from Florida State University and moved back to North Carolina, reunited with some of my bandmates from college, and started playing in a big band orchestra. I walked in on a Saturday morning for a rehearsal that I was invited to, and there were about 9 guys on the back row that played trumpet. And I figured right then they didn't need another trumpet player. Because these were guys that, could eat my lunch when I was in college. And
Right.
so, so I wasn't going to try to compete against them. But I did see a guy sitting down playing the bass. And so I went down to sit beside him and started talking to him. And I told him, I said, I play a little guitar. He says, well, bring your guitar next time you come. And so I did and started comping on the chords. And the next thing I knew, I was the rhythm section leader after about a year. And I played with the North Carolina Jazz Ensemble from about 1984 to about 1996. I actually used to get up before the break of day in Weaverville and drive down to Durham, North Carolina,
Wow, that's
twice a month, twice a month for rehearsals. And sometimes I would drive down, we'd have a rehearsal and then a gig that night. And so I'd get somebody to drive so I wouldn't have to drive anymore. And we'd go to like Fort Bragg to play at the NCO club or somewhere like that. I'd bunk over with one of my buddies overnight and then come back to Asheville to go to work. I had my business in Asheville, so I
And
had to
talk about
go
that
back to
too.
work.
Because the thing that's incredible, I think, about you, Chuck, is that you seem to be also capable of doing about 27 things at one time, and we'll talk about that. I mean, so now I got the music part of it. So you said you had a business in the Asheville area? What business
Yes,
was that?
I did database designs. I did database work for years in Asheville.
Okay. And
Um,
then the thing that blew me away the first time I heard about it, so I knew the music, I read about the database design. Then also, all of a sudden, I read one time a thing on social media. You decide to go to school to become an ordained minister.
yes, yes, that was unexpected. Um, my family were all in ministry. My mother actually was a child preacher. She actually had her own congregation. I guess she was about 12 or 13 years of age in
Wow.
Laurinburg, North Carolina. And she always was involved in the church. She taught the same Sunday school class for about 60 years, to tell you, that's, how she was. And my father was a lay preacher. And so, it was always in my family, my relatives. And um, at some point in time when I was on the road playing with people, I remember, some of my musicians would have problems, problems with their relationships, problems with drug and alcohol, problems with the law. And they would always come to my room to confide in me or ask advice. And one guy just turned one day and said to me, you're our pastor, and it kind of stuck. That kind of stuck. And when I was dating Elaine, my wife now, when I was dating I kind of got a call, into ministry. And so I shared that with her. I said, if we're going to go any further dating, you need to know that this is coming in. And it caught her by surprise, but um, she's been very, very supportive. And when we married, and when I took her up to meet my family up in Pennsylvania to introduce her, a couple of my girl cousins had just finished their MDiv, uh, Masters of Divinity degrees. And so one turned to me and said, Cousin Charles, when are you going to go to seminary? You've been preaching about 5 years now. When are you going to go? So I said, I'm too old. I was 65 at the
I
time.
remember when I read that, I said I couldn't believe you were going
Yeah,
to.
yeah. I was 65. I said, I'm too old. And Elaine turns and she says, No, you're not too old. If you want to go to seminary, you're going to seminary. And so when we got back to Asheville, she took it upon herself to start calling. She called Duke and she called Candler School of Theology and a couple others. And they started calling me saying, I understand you're interested in seminary, And so I talked to Duke. I talked to the people at Candler and they invited me to come down to see the campus and talk to some of the professors. And I did that. And eventually we decided that we wanted to come to Candler. And so I came, and she had no intention of coming. But once I got uh, lined up to be in school, she applied, and we both got scholarships to go to Candler. So, yeah, that's how that rolled out.
When you became ordained, I guess were you the oldest or one of the oldest people who
I
got
was the oldest. I was oldest in my class.
very cool.
And I'm pretty convinced that my professors did not think that I had it in me. They said, you already have a PhD. Why would you put yourself through this? And I wasn't trying to prove anything. I was just trying to be vetted. correctly, And but yeah, it was a great experience. I learned a lot that I did not know. Learned about Greek and Hebrew and all this kind of good stuff, And
When did you become
I'm a
ordained?
lifelong learner anyway.
When did you become ordained?
My ordination was in 2019.
Wow. And so
No, no, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I take that back. 2016. I'm sorry.
I remember reading about
26.
it. So then at that point in time, you then got your own church, or you have your own church now?
When I finished seminary, when I was an associate pastor in Asheville
I remember that,
before
yeah.
I left, at Rock Hill Missionary Baptist Church over in Shiloh community. And I was there for about 6 years. And I was ordained by the Baptist, by a Baptist pastor over there, uh, Dr. Hardaway, Spencer Hardaway. And he gave me a charge. He said, I want you to go and be the pastor to the city of Atlanta. So he kind of gave me an at-large charge, and because I was going to school, and so when I finished seminary, the first semester, I mean the first year that I was there, at the end of the first year, I decided to take chaplaincy training. So I did an internship as a chaplain at Emory Midtown Hospital, and I liked it. And so after I graduated from seminary, I entered into their residency program, and I did a residency at Emory University Hospital, and I was looking to get an assignment as a permanent full-time chaplain. Um, and right at the end of my residency, I got a call from a district superintendent in the United Methodist Church offering me a pastorate. This was during COVID, and I took it. I took it, and I'm glad I did. So that was my first church. I stayed there 1 year, and then I got a new bishop came in, and the bishop assigned me to another appointment. And I've been at that church now for 4 years.
And what church is
Uh,
that?
it's called Hartford United Methodist Church, and it's outside of Fayetteville, Georgia.
So the incredible thing, listening to your story, Chuck, is I won't count the number of careers that this is, or the number of jobs you've had, but it seems you've had a bunch. You know,
I've
it-
had I've had a great run at it, and my kids ask me, Daddy, when are you going to retire? And I said, I haven't even started yet.
well, talk about that, Chuck, because that's one of the reasons I asked you to come on board. We kind of a roundabout way to get to where you are now. But all of a sudden, I read on social media that all of a sudden now you have this idea to become a leader of bus tours, and just maybe
Yes.
move out of the way. I just love the logo. Just let people see it, just so they can see it. I don't know if you can see it. The Blues bus tour. I love it. Get on the bus. Great, great, great. How did you come up with this idea, Chuck? And what's this idea all about?
Well, I've always wanted to pay a homage to the great ancestors in the blues, and I wanted to do a pilgrimage to go down to uh, where the blues was formed. I always wanted to do that. Um, my wife rewarded me last year by booking us on the legendary Rhythm and Blues cruise, where I went down to Aruba and Curacao. And I got a chance to play with some of the great blues musicians, uh, that are available. I played with Kingfish um, and many others.
Wait, what
I
a
don't know if
trip.
you've ever heard of Kingfish.
I just love the idea of the trip. So the vacation was not only to cruise, but built into it, everybody had to perform, or just the people wanted to perform,
No, there were performers there, but this was a blues cruise. Like these are like avid
right?
blues fans. About 600 or 700, I guess, people that were there. And I mean, there are great acts. There was Shamika Copeland and um, um, Ronnie Baker Brooks and just a lot of all stars. There were Taj Mahal. They
Okay.
were all there, and these are some people that I know, like Taj. I know him. I know Shamika. And so I got an opportunity to play on stage with these folks. And when I got back, I was on such a high. I thought about it, and I thought about my penchant to go down to the heart of the blues. And I just done it on a cruise ship. And I said, well, why don't I do it on a bus? Blues by bus. And it just came out like that, you know? And so I came up with an itinerary for a trip and I priced it out. And I wanted it to be just like the blues cruise that I'd taken. So it was, uh, all accommodations, all inclusive, just get on the bus. That's how I got that. You don't have to do anything, just get on the bus. And I pay for the meals, I pay for the hotels, the entrance way into all the museums and all the clubs and all of the activities, for one price, people can go and enjoy this memorable experience.
Now, are you going also be driving the bus too? Is that part of it?
No, I'm
Oh.
not going to drive I don't have a CDL.
Okay. Well, no, but in your spare time, Chuck, pick up something else, another skill, become a bus driver. What the heck? But
But I
going
do have a pilot's license if you wanted to hear that.
okay, but going back to you. So I love the concept of the tour. When is I think you told me it's starting in when is it? October?
October 2 through 5. It's the first Thursday in October.
Okay. And so what does it entail? So if somebody signs up for the bus, you said all meals, all that good stuff. But what are they going to see in those days?
Okay, so we're going to go from Atlanta, Georgia to Memphis, Tennessee. We're going to spend a day in Memphis, a night in Memphis, Beale Street, Stax Records. We're going to go to Sun Studios. We're going to see a lot of great things there in Memphis and hang out on Beale Street and have some wonderful food and entertainment. Then we'll get up the next day. We'll stop for a brief while in Tunica, Mississippi. Some people like to gamble and shop. And there's also the Gateway to the Blues Museum there, so they can stop and see that. And then we'll move on to Clarksdale, Mississippi. Clarksdale is ground zero. Actually, Morgan Freeman has a nightclub there,
Oh, really?
a juke joint called Ground Zero. And so we're hoping to be able to go to Ground Zero. They're closed right now. I don't know whether it's for the season or what, but we're going to keep checking on that. But uh, the idea is to have time there, and then there are museums and other things, other exhibits. We'll get the chance to go to some notable landmarks, and we'll have docents there to guide people and inform them about what's going on uh, in Clarksdale. And then we move on to Cleveland, Mississippi, and we spend time at the Blues Trail, the Delta Blues Trail Museum, which is a state-sponsored uh, museum, and they have docents there to, guide you through the history of the blues in that area. We'll do that, and then I'm hoping to have a fish fry, an outside fish fry. It's like a Saturday night juke joint. If people have seen the movie, um, uh, I don't know if you've heard of the movie Sinners. But there's a movie Sinners now that has a big blues theme in it.
I understand.
And it's something that's, well, people might enjoy if they hear this podcast. They might enjoy going out and seeing that. And they'll see a little bit of what I'm talking about how the blues is a part of the culture and the life. It's in the movies now called Sinners.
I'm putting it down. Yeah,
Uh,
thank you.
yes.
Have you seen it,
And-
the movie?
oh, yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. Actually, I plan to do a little webinar to explain some of the symbolism and some of the traditions that I saw that I picked up in the movie itself. It did a great job of connecting the music from the field hollers on up to the prison gang songs, work songs, the railroad men, all the way up through, the solo musicians, and then into the blues, which we know, Memphis, Chicago, the whole thing, right up to what we have right now, which is R&B, rock and roll, hip hop. Everything came from this music. And so that the movie does a great job of pointing people in that path. And I just want to amplify that and maybe do a talk to tell people more about that. But no, this is a part of the blues history. I make the claim that it is the American music,
Now, how do
the
people?
American music.
So on this tour, again, just go back to it. It starts out of where?
Out of Atlanta.
Okay, and so when going back to Atlanta, so how do people get back to Atlanta? Is there a
Oh,
stop?
I'm going to bring them back. I'm going to bring them back.
No, but
So yes, I'm gonna take them to Memphis, Clarksdale, Cleveland. Then we're gonna stop the last night in Birmingham and have a farewell party. Birmingham, Alabama. We have a farewell party in Birmingham, and then I bring them back to Atlanta. And the idea of having the farewell party is to kind of build a community around the trip that people can exchange addresses, they can take photos together. I'm going to try to get some social proof, get some video and have them interviewed and ask them about their experience so I can use that for future trips so people can understand what the value of the experience is.
who should go on this trip, Chuck? Who's it for?
Who is it for? Oh, that's a great question. Uh, Blues lovers, people are curious about the culture, influencers, people who want to write about uh, the blues experience, um, anyone who uh, would like to be challenged about what they know about American music, because I think they go to see where the music was born, where it was created, the environment in which it was created. I think that will enrich anybody who had that experience.
Now, if they go on this trip, or not they go on the trip, but for you, what do you say after this trip? So this is the first, this will be the first official blues tour. Do you see other ones in the future or going elsewhere, or do you see this going anywhere else?
Absolutely. We have, I'm a visionary. And so I envision this 3 day trip, uh, this 4 day, three nights, evolving perhaps into a 5 day and then to a maybe full 7 day experience. And perhaps with some workshops and other things that to amplify the experience. I also am challenged, I believe, to maybe do some day trips here in Georgia because I'm finding there are many, many blues icons who came out of Georgia, right around the Atlanta area. And I could probably do a day trip or half day trip out of Atlanta and have that to build up, a following of people who might be interested in these larger trips.
Now, if they go on one of these trips, so the one coming up, I have to ask you specifically, will they also get to hear you perform or sing at all?
My hope is that I'll get a chance to play with some of the
Okay,
elders down in Mississippi. So I'll take Black Bessie with me. You met Black Bessie
right.
when I came over to your community.
And by the way, we'll give a shout out. We talked about him off the air. You were there with mentioned the guys you were with Marcel. You want to give a shout, say hello to
Sure.
him?
Yes, my dear friend Marcel Anton and I came to play at your community over there, and we just had such a wonderful experience with your folks. There was just so wonderful. Marcel is now on the road with Big Al and the Heavyweights, and his group has been inducted into the Alabama
Very nice.
Hall of Fame. And I am so proud of Marcel. Marcel is such a great musician and a great person. And Marcel will probably be joining me on this tour. I talked to him, I think it was the week before last. And I talked to him and he asked me, how far are you, how close are you coming down to Gulfport? Because he's down in the Gulfport, Mississippi area. He's based out of Gulfport now, playing in New Orleans and Gulfport and those areas down there. But yeah, and I would like to give shout out to all my guys that were, on my record. There was, I don't know if you remember Jim Arundel
Name's familiar. Go ahead. Yeah.
and Jeff Knorr, who has passed away. Michael Hines, bass player, he was on my record. And yeah, and Lenny, who plays the Wurlitzer piano, Lenny Panetti, he's there in Nashville. So all my guys that were instrumental in making this record, I don't know if you can see it or
No,
not.
you can't. You're losing it. Yeah. Just show.
Yeah,
No.
it's uh, it's
What's
called it's called Natural Man.
there? You go. I can see it. Hold it. You just had it
Yeah,
right. Natural Man.
yeah, there you go. It's
And people
called
want.
Natural Man.
If people want to get that, is that available on Amazon?
Available on Amazon, Spotify. They can download their digitals. iTunes has it. It's very available.
Okay. And
Yes.
Chuck, one final question. And if people want to get more information, either about Chuck Beattie or this upcoming tour, what's the best bet? Go to a website.
You can go to my website, chuckbeattie.com. I also have a website for the bus,
Right.
bluesbybus.com. And they can email me. There's email links on there, or they could just write info@bluesbybus.com, and they could get some information that way.
And one final question I have to ask you, because that's how I know you as Dr. Blues. How'd you get that name?
Well, as I said, I had my computer company, and I had a relationship with the business department and information systems department over at UNC Asheville. Uh, I'm a former professor. I guess you knew that also.
Right. In your spare
And
time.
so, and they asked me if I would take some interns in information sciences. And so I agreed to take one just to try it out. And they sent a young man to me. His name was Michael Mayer. And Michael uh, ended up being a player. He played guitar. He and I did a blues jam together. And the name of my company was uh, Databases by Design. And so he turned around to me and says, "We're going to name our band Blues by Design. And you're the blues doctor." And then he says, "No, you're Dr. Blues."
I love it.
And it stuck. It stuck from that point on.
Great name. Anyway, Chuck, I'd like to thank you for being my guest on this edition of Blaine's World webcast. First time I've had the pleasure of having you on as a guest. I just love your stories. When I saw the idea of the tour, I love that idea as well. So I hope it goes well, and hopefully we'll be in touch at some point in time, man. That'd be great.
Yes, I hope you'll have me back again so we can talk some more. I really enjoyed this so much. Thank you so much for your time.
Okay, you rock, Chuck. Be well, man. Thanks.